Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'm sorry, but I'm a little under the weather today. I have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they both have had the flu, and I think I'm getting it now, so yeah, sorry. So first I want to thank Network Director Ms. Autry for the invitation. I was really honored and humbled that you even thought of me to ask me to come and speak, so thank you so much. And thanks to all the vendors and sponsors and volunteers and everyone who helped to make this event possible. I think this is a great event. I'm happy to be here and can't wait for next year. Excuse me. So the theme for this year's conference is maximizing your leadership competencies with passion. That is a mouthful, right? But it's so very important to be passionate in everything that you do. So when she was reading my bio, it's hard to hear someone else talk about you, first of all. But second of all, I thought, wow, I wouldn't have been able to do any of that, any of the things that she talked about if I was not passionate about life, about all the things that I believe in. So as she said, I do all those things, but in my role at the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, I really have 2 big functions. One, I am the Chief Operating Officer of the agency. So I focus on creating standard procedures for the office. I am in charge of all of the different departments of our agency to make sure that we are enforcing the Indiana Civil Rights Law across the state in a consistent manner. And then the other thing that I do is, as a Chief Legal Counsel, I help our staff attorneys with their litigation strategies, and I'm just all over the place. If you ever come to my office, I'm never literally sitting at my desk. I am everywhere in the office at all times because I have to do so much for our agency. We're just a small agency, one of the smallest state agencies with about 35 staff members. We handle about 1,000 discrimination complaints a year. And a lot of those complaints go to trial, whether it's in front of our administrative law judge or going to state court. So we do a lot of work. We have to make sure that we're out in the community, all around the state, making sure people understand what their rights and responsibilities are under the law. But we also have to be in the office doing the work. So when she talked about that burnout, I felt that. I just turned 30 a couple months ago. So yeah, I'm doing a lot. I love what I do, but I'm doing a lot, and I'm not at the point of burnout yet, but you know, using those strategies, thinking about things in the long term and not just, you know, this is my day, these are all the million things that I have to do today, but really focusing on the long term is, at least right now, helping me get through the day to day. So, when we look back in history, the world has always questioned, what does it mean to be a good leader? So as we know, for centuries and centuries, men were the only leaders that this world had ever known, right? Well, depending on the different cultures, but in generalization, men were the only leaders. Then the world opened up and said, okay, people of different backgrounds, cultures, gender, we have women leaders, ethnicities, you all can be leaders too. But there's still one characteristic that is still being questioned for being a leader. And that's age, right? You know, King Tut, he was what, 10 years old, he was the king, and you know, it's always been a thing, like, can young people lead? Why should I listen to someone younger than me? You know, what can they offer me? So that's what I'm here to really talk about today. The reality is we're all living longer and working longer, right? Studies show that the number of workers over the age of 55 has increased from 11.9% back in 1994 to 23.9% in 2017. So by the year 2024, one in every person in the labor force will be over the age of 55. So less and less people are working towards that American dream of working to your 30 or 55 and comfortably retiring, going to Florida, you know, the dream that we all thought about as kids. You know, I'm just going to work until I hit my whatever age, and then I'm going to retire and enjoy my life. We're working longer, we're living longer. Things aren't the way that they used to be, I guess, right? So at the same time, as our workforce is aging, we also are getting an influx of the new generation coming into the workforce. So I am a part of that millennial generation that gets the bad rap, right? I cannot go to a conference, a presentation, whatever, without hearing how lazy millennials are, how whiny millennials are, how we all want participation trophies. So millennials is that group of folks that were born in the years 1980 to the year 2000. We are the group that grew up with social media, technology at our fingertips from a very young age, reality TV. That's who we are. But we have those negative stereotypes associated with that, you know. You want, you want instant gratification, you don't have patience, you don't want to wait your turn for, you know, you have to be here for so long before you can do the next thing. We don't want that, right? That is the bad reputation that we have. So going back to my work at the Civil Rights Commission, I am the second person in charge at the Civil Rights Commission. I'm the deputy director. 90% of my team, they're all older than me, 90%. My direct reports, I have 8 direct reports, and they're all at least the age of my parents or grandparents. So, you know, here I am, just turned 30 and, you know, trying to tell everybody else what to do. It is very difficult for me to walk into work confronting those negative stereotypes that millennials have, that we get, and also being a good leader and making sure our organization is thriving. So today I want to talk about my 3 keys to be a successful leader in the 21st century. So, you know, in my experience, in my short experience, I've learned that there are 3 things that are really necessary to be a great leader. The first is always having a quest for knowledge, always being curious, knowing that you don't know, right? To me, that's most important. The second thing is to be a daring and passionate leader. Make sure they know why you're in the room, right? Cultivate a culture of belonging, inclusivity, and diversity in perspective in your workplace. No one should think just like you. No one should think just like the next person. Everyone should have their own thoughts to bring to the workplace. And finally, my third key is forgive yourself and forgive others. People don't really think of forgiveness as an essential quality to being a leader, but it is so essential to have a growth mindset and to be able to understand that you're not perfect and no one else is either. So let's go to the first key. I'm so sorry. I'm sick. All right, so the quest for knowledge. I have always been very curious. As a kid, I asked a million questions, always asking why all the time. I've always been thirsty to understand the world and how everything works. Going back to my grandparents, my paternal grandparents migrated from the South during the Great Migration, when a lot of black folks were moving up north to find opportunity. My grandparents on my paternal side have about an 8th grade education, but they knew, or at least they thought, coming to the north would provide more opportunity for their family. And my maternal grandparents immigrated from overseas with no education, but they also had that hope for the American dream, that their children and their grandchildren would be able to survive and thrive in society. So my grandparents, from a very early age, indoctrinated into me that education was really going to be the key to succeed in the world. So I've always been a reader, always curious about the world, always asking questions, and I don't think I'll ever stop. And especially in today's society, with technology just changing every day. There's something else every day. They're talking about new graduation pathways for children now, because our children are not being taught the skills that they need to survive in the economy within the next 10 to 20 years. If they don't have the skills, then how do we think we're going to have the skills to continue working in the next 10 to 20 years? We always have to remain curious, always have to remain on that quest for knowledge. And if you don't have that quest for knowledge, then you're not going to have the passion that it takes to be a good leader. So that leads me to my second point of being a daring and a passionate leader. So passion, well, before we get to that, I do want to talk about my quest for knowledge and how it led me to my passion for work in equal opportunity, civil rights, and immigration. Always being curious about the world showed me all of the injustices in the world. Just looking at my own family. My father is African American and my mother is Dominican. So seeing the injustices from being a minority, being people of color, being speaking another language, not understanding the culture, has really shown its ugly head in America. So I've taken it upon myself to be that voice for the voiceless, to always fight for injustices around the world. And with the Indiana Civil Rights Commission, what we do is enforce the Indiana Civil Rights Law, right? So in the state of Indiana, it is against the law, it is illegal to discriminate against someone in housing, in employment, in education, in a public accommodation, or in credit because of their protected class. So whether that's their race, their religion, their national origin, their disability, their veteran status, that's against the law. And a lot of people don't know where to go and what to do. So it's important that we're there in the community to make that happen for folks. And I've also learned that I don't know. I don't know a lot of things. I'm always hungry to learn more things, but I know that I don't know. And as women, we are very hard on ourselves, right? If we don't know something, we won't ask any questions, we won't try to figure it out. If there's a project coming up at work, and you don't have every single skill or qualification that they're asking for the project, we won't go for the project. We won't go for that leadership role. If you're in school and the teacher asks a question and you're not 100% certain that you know the answer, you're probably not going to raise your hand. We're very hard on ourselves. We want to make sure that we have that perfect answer. We want to make sure that we have everything in line. You know, we're not even going to apply for a position on LinkedIn if we don't meet every single qualification that position asks for. Do you think men do that? No. Studies show that if men meet 20 to 30% of the qualifications,
they apply.
If it says you need 10 years experience and you only got 3 years of experience, they won't apply. I have a hard time doing that, right? I am not going to apply for something that I don't think I meet every single qualification for. One, because we have that, we want to make sure that we are the perfect person for the position. We don't want to take a position knowing that there might be somebody that's better than us. Right? So that's something that we need to work on as women. Not being so hard on ourselves. Not trying to be perfect. Know that you don't know, but then also be comfortable enough to find the answer, to be curious enough to keep reaching for those answers, to be lifelong learners. So when I applied at the Civil Rights Commission, it was for the administrative law judge position. I had just been practicing law for about 2 years, and I was gonna apply to be a judge.
That's right.
And I was like, I'll try, whatever. You know, who cares? I've always wanted to work in civil rights, so this is my chance to at least get in front of them, right? Even if I don't get the position, at least they know who I am, and when there's another position that opens up, maybe they'll consider me. That was really my thought process. I'm applying for this job, not to actually get the job, but just to meet them so they can know who I am for another job. And I was so shocked to find out that they chose me for the job. You know, I'm 27 years old, and, you know, I was like, what? Are you sure? The administrative law judge position where I have to, like, preside over cases? I've only had 3 jury trials myself in front of a judge. Are y'all sure? And they said, yeah. We think that you have the skills to at least learn the job, and you're so passionate about this, we couldn't pass you up. Like, we knew, I came to that interview, knew everything about the Civil Rights Commission, forward and backwards, asking questions that they had never even thought of. You know, that showed to them that I was so passionate about it, and that I was so thirsty for the knowledge and learning about what the commission did, that they said they just couldn't pass it up. So. I was the youngest administrative law judge in the state of Indiana, and not anymore though, so that's great. But, you know, had I not gone for the position, because it said you need to have at least 10 years experience as an attorney, you have to have all these different qualifications. I had none. I was practicing immigration law. I had never done a discrimination complaint before in my life, but I applied. So it just goes to show that if you're passionate about something and you do your homework and you know, reach for the stars, you never know where you might land. So, all right. So, as I said, without that thirst for knowledge, there is no desire to be passionate or to be a passionate leader. And the definition of passion is just any powerful or compelling emotion, like love or hate. So passion is not necessarily a good thing, right? You can be a boss, or you can have a boss that is passionate about getting to the office at 7 a.m. sharp, or passionate about answering or sending emails at 2 a.m. Right? What if your passion is not moving your team forward to achieving a higher goal? Then that passion is just a hollow feeling, a hollow emotion that you have. It's not moving anybody forward. It is not helpful in any way. But when you're passionate in the sense that you are creating that inclusive and excuse me, belonging environment at work where people feel that they're being heard, that their perspectives are important, and that they know that you have their back no matter what, that is helping to achieve a higher purpose. That is achieving a goal that your place of employment may have never even had, right? And I mean, especially in my work at the Civil Rights Commission, that is so very important. We see people from all walks of life. And if we all have the same perspective on what it means to be a diverse member of the community, then we're not doing the state of Indiana justice. We're supposed to bring different perspectives to what we do, because if not, discrimination is not going to be able to be eradicated in the state of Indiana. So, all right, and when it comes to being a daring and passionate leader, I mentioned that you have to make sure that you're in the room. So I know Michelle Obama and other leaders have talked about having a seat at the table, right? Make sure you have a seat at the table. Before you can even get to the table, you have to be in the room, right? How do you get in the room? And how do you make sure that people know why you're in the room? Having a seat at the table is being able to make those decisions, being able to be a part of the decision-making process, having that power. To be a leader, you don't necessarily have to make decisions. You don't have to be in a position of power, right? You can be a leader by being visible, by showing other women, by showing other people of color and showing everyone really that you are supposed to be there, right? And by doing that, you have to show them why you're there. You have to bring something to the table. Not just being a pretty face in a cute dress and cute heels, whatever, right? You have to bring something tangible to the table. So what are your strengths? What makes you, you? Once you understand who you are and understand what you bring to the table, then nobody should be able to tell you nothing. So no matter what your age is, so if you're 21 years old, you have strengths. If you are 61 years old, you have strengths. And what makes you unique? What makes you the person that needs to be there? And once you are there, don't forget to reach back and bring people up with you. That's something that, I mean, in my profession as an attorney, it's hard to find that, hard to find someone who is willing to bring you up alongside with them. Because what we do, right, we're trying to get clients, we're trying to make money. So if I'm bringing you up, if I'm making you the next best thing, then where does that leave me? But it's so very important because this next generation of kids, I mean, like I said, I have a 3-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they are wicked smart. They know everything. They literally have grown up from birth with iPhones and iPads and all types of crazy technology that even me, 30 years ago, we didn't have any of that stuff. My kids, my 3-year-old can get on his iPad, turn it on, go to his app, whatever, play whatever he needs to do at 3 years old. So if that's where they are nowadays, at that young of an age, just imagine where this world's going to be. Imagine the innovation that this world is going to have in the next 20 years. It's just going to be incredible and unbelievable. But if we're stuck on, well, they better find their own way to get here, or who told them to do that, then we're not going to keep growing as a society. We're not going to keep the generations going and moving in a positive direction. All right, so the last thing I wanted to talk about is forgiving yourself and forgiving others. It's so very important to be able to be vulnerable, not only in the workplace, but in your own personal life, to show that you are a human, that you are not a superwoman, that you do break down, that you are, we're human. I'll share a personal story. Just literally the other day on Wednesday, I was at work, doing my thing, walking around. I get a phone call. And the person on the other line is saying, hey, it's like 10:05. She's like, hey, just wondering if everything's okay. Do you need directions? Are you nearby? My heart dropped. I was supposed to be in Lawrenceburg, Indiana, doing a 3-hour presentation on sexual harassment in the workplace to a group of 200 people. 200 people. They were all there for a conference. I had 3 hours to present, and I wasn't there. It just wasn't on my calendar. I forgot to put it on my calendar. Whatever, right? But the first thing that happened was my heart dropped. I just wanted to just die, right? I just felt so horrible. I was so mad at myself. I was so frustrated. I work for the state. I don't make a lot of money. I need an assistant. Nobody's helping me. I have to do all these things. Like, I just was going crazy, with trying to figure out who I can blame, like whose fault it was that I wasn't in Lawrenceburg. Knowing that it was my fault, all of that. Just feeling those just angry feelings, right? But the second thing that I had to do was forgive myself. I'm a human. I make mistakes. I mean, that's just simple as that. Like, I apologized. I thank the Lord, was able to do a Skype thing, so I was able to do my presentation, and it still was just fine, but I mean, it was horrible. It was horrible. I'd never done anything like that before, and I'll never do it again. Because when we make mistakes, you have to forgive yourself, have to understand that you're just a person like anybody else. But then the next thing you need to do is learn from that mistake and make sure that you never have that same mistake ever again. So that's something that I'm going to keep with me forever, because I felt horrible. I didn't know what to do. Did not know what to do. I knew that there were 200 people sitting in an auditorium waiting for me to walk on the stage at 10 o'clock, and I wasn't there. Did I do something?
No, you want.
Okay. So just as you're forgiving yourself, you have to forgive everybody else too, right? Nobody's perfect. You're not perfect. You know you're not perfect. You know you make mistakes. But when a staff member makes a mistake, you gotta forgive them too, right? Oh, she know what she did. Well, why is she talking to that person like that? She knows you're not supposed to talk to people like that. Da, da, da. She's a person just like you. She could be having a bad day just like you. We have to forgive people. We have to meet people where they are. And the biggest thing that I've learned is when you have expectations of someone else, that's not a reflection of them if they don't meet those expectations. That's a reflection of you. Those are your expectations that you're putting on someone else. That's simple as that. That's not their fault that they're not meeting your expectations. You should not be having those expectations on anyone. You shouldn't have expectations for anyone, because people are people, and people are going to do what's in their best self-interest. And once you realize that, once you understand that that people live for themselves and live for their own goals and live for their own achievements and ambitions, then you'll be less stressed and more understanding and more forgiving as a leader. So just to close, excuse me, I have a quote that I love so much that I have it right in front of my, in my office, right on the top. And it's, what you do makes a difference, right? But you have to decide what kind of difference you want to make, right? You can make a bad difference in the workplace or in your home, or you can make a good difference. It's up to you to decide what kind of difference you want to make. So I want to make sure that I make a positive difference in this world, and I think by being curious, by always being on that quest for knowledge, by being a passionate leader, being just a passionate person in general, and being able to forgive myself and forgive others will help me to continue to be a passionate and positive leader in the world. All right, so thank you. Thank you.